Tama Horsford attended a birthday slumber party in an upscale Georgia neighborhood. The next morning, she was found dead in the backyard. Her injuries? Shocking. Her cause of death? Ruled an accident. But her family? They say something doesn't add up. What really happened that night inside that house, and why are there still more questions than answers? This is the story of Tama Horsford, a vibrant 40-year-old mother of 5, remembered by family and friends as full of life, warm-hearted, and always ready to light up a room. On the night of November 3, 2018, Tamla attended what was supposed to be a casual and fun gathering with other football moms in Forsyth County, Georgia. The event was hosted at a friend's home, and the atmosphere was friendly and relaxed, the kind of evening where laughter, drinks, and games fill the air. But what began as a night of bonding and camaraderie ended in devastating tragedy. By the following morning, Tamla was found dead in the backyard of the home. The official account claimed she had accidentally fallen from the second-story balcony, but from the start, that explanation raised red flags. The condition of her body, the timeline given by attendees, and the lack of clear answers prompted skepticism. Family members, community activists, and internet sleuths began asking uncomfortable questions. How could a night so ordinary take such a dark turn? And why did the answers seem to come so easily for some, yet not satisfy those closest to Tamla? The party itself was hosted by Gene Myers, whose son played football with one of Tamla's. It was a small gathering, around 8 to 10 women, with a few men joining later in the evening. Guests brought food and drinks, wore pajamas, and watched football. They played games, sipped cocktails, and shared stories. On the surface, it seemed like a picture-perfect night of suburban fun. But beneath the surface, Tamla's presence as the only black woman at the party would later cast a long shadow over the events that unfolded, not just because of race, but because of how her death was handled in its aftermath. Witnesses recalled that Tamla had been in good spirits throughout the night. She drank tequila, joked with friends, posed for photos, and watched the game. Nothing suggested distress or discomfort. Yet hours later, her body was found face down in the backyard. Despite injuries that some believe were inconsistent with a simple fall, the case was quickly ruled an accident. But for Tamla's family and many others, the wounds left behind were deeper than just the mystery surrounding her death. They were about the silence, the inconsistencies, and the unsettling feeling that justice was never truly served. At some point, she went outside to smoke. That would be the last time anyone claims to have seen her alive. Around 8:45 a.m. the next morning, Jeannie's aunt allegedly spotted Tamla lying face down in the backyard. Police were called, and the story unfolded quickly. They claimed Tamla had fallen from the second-floor balcony while intoxicated, but the injuries told a different story. Multiple abrasions, a dislocated wrist, cuts to her face, a laceration on her heart. And most disturbingly, her body was found with her arms at her side, not how someone would typically land from a fall. Police ruled it accidental, case closed. But her family? They weren't buying it. The women at the party all gave statements, but timelines didn't line up. Some texts from that morning seemed oddly casual. One partygoer texted her boyfriend, "We had one too many," followed by laughing emojis. Security system logs showed odd activity. The back door opened and closed throughout the night, but no one could confirm when Tamla went outside, or why no one noticed. And then came the photos. A few hours before she died, Tamla was seen on Snapchat, smiling and playful. How did that energy vanish into a fatal fall just hours later? Then came the kicker. In February 2019, months after the incident, a friend of Jeannie's who worked in the court system was caught accessing Tamla's case file without authorization. Why, and what did they see that wasn't meant for the public? Tamla's family launched their own campaign for answers. They hired a second pathologist, who found injuries inconsistent with a simple fall, suggesting she may have been in a struggle. Public pressure surrounding Tama Horsford's case began to mount rapidly as her story gained traction across the country. Social media lit up with hashtags demanding justice. Online petitions gathered thousands of signatures, and influential celebrities like T.I. and 50 Cent used their platforms to shine a spotlight on the suspicious circumstances of her death. The growing national interest could no longer be ignored. In 2020, amid this rising outcry, the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office made the decision to reopen the investigation. Officials stated it was due to renewed interest, a phrase that many felt downplayed the urgency and emotional weight behind the public's demands for truth. Despite revisiting the case, the outcome remained unchanged. Authorities once again ruled Tamla's death as accidental, concluding there was no foul play involved. For many, this felt like a slap in the face, not only to the family, but to everyone who had followed the case closely. The lack of transparency, the initial investigative oversights, and the repeated insistence on the same conclusion, despite mounting questions, left a bitter taste. Critics argued that the system had failed Tamla, not because the answers weren't there, but because there was no will to truly find them. The racial dynamics of the case became impossible to ignore. Tamla was the only black woman in a room filled with white guests, in a county that had a long and complicated racial history. Many began to believe that her race had everything to do with how the investigation was handled, and how quickly it was dismissed. Instead of being treated as a potential victim, some felt she was treated more like a disruption. What might have been a full-scale investigation under different circumstances was seen, in Tamla's case, as little more than a formality. The conversation soon evolved from one tragic case to a broader reflection on racial bias in the justice system. Voices from the community grew louder. Protest signs filled local streets. Threads on social media and true crime forums kept her name alive. And in all of these conversations, one painful question kept rising to the surface. If Tama Horsford had been a white woman, would the investigation, or the conclusion, have been any different? Her husband, Leander Horsford, has since spoken publicly with heartbreaking clarity. "I know Tamla," he said. "She didn't fall." With those few words, he expressed the weight of unimaginable loss. A husband without his wife, and 5 children without their mother, and still no real explanation. He's pushed for truth, not headlines, justice, not speculation. Let's walk through the last hours. 1:30 a.m. Tamla is last seen going out for a smoke. By 7:30 a.m., guests begin waking up. At 8:45, she's found outside. In between, no one reported hearing a scream. No fall, nothing. The balcony she supposedly fell from? Only about 14 feet high and surrounded by grass, not concrete. Tama Horsford's death was labeled an accident, but the pain her family feels is very real. So are the inconsistencies. So are the questions. When a mother of 5 dies under suspicious circumstances, at a party full of witnesses, the least the world can do is demand a real investigation. Because if we stop asking questions, who will be next? Don't let her name fade. Say it, share it, remember it.